Hi, everyone. This is Rich Binsaka. I'm the editorial director of Pro Builder Media, and today I'm proud to bring you the new home. Now, for those of you that have been to IBS before, you may be familiar with Show Village. It's an outdoor exhibit that's been part of IBS for the better part of, 30 years. And it includes meetups, demonstrations, product information from our sponsors, and also some demonstration homes that allow you to wander around, take a look at some new technology, some new ways of doing things, and basically get a little bit of fresh air when you're at IBS. We also have product demonstrations, how-to demonstrations through our ProConnect group. So it's just a lot of activity out there behind the convention center. In 2021, obviously, we weren't able to be live at IBS. IBS went virtual. And so we adjusted, as many companies did, to an online platform for Show Village. And that basically resulted in the development of 3 what we call immersive home experiences, one of which is the new home. So I'd like to present that to you today, along with some colleagues of mine, folks from Woodley Architectural Group who designed the home, and also John Burns Real Estate Consulting, who provided some data and research about consumer preferences regarding lifestyle and some of the new things that we're seeing with regards to work from home and schooling from home, outdoor spaces, just how we live today, basically, in the COVID era. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing you'll come to when you go to pvshowvillage.com is, if you haven't registered before, a very simple registration page. So fill out that and click on submit, and then you are entered into the first stage of the experience, which is this homepage or this landing page. And you'll see our avatar, Allison. She's your guide through the entire experience. And then the 3 homes behind her, the new home on the left, the thoughtful home in the middle, and the healthy, clean home on the right. So we're going to go into the new home. And all you do is go to the top of the menu or the top of the page, click on new home, and select the immersive tour, and it takes you right to it. We've got a couple of folks here that are going to talk about the front elevation of the house, the design intent. We'll start with Mike Woodley from Woodley Architectural Group.
And we actually chose to do this more modern farmhouse aesthetic, which really is happening throughout the country, and we see that everywhere. And so we think this is a real kind of universal taste, and so we wanted to do the house that could be used pretty much anywhere, or the idea of this house could be something that could be built anywhere.
Okay, there's a lot going on this front elevation, obviously. And one of the things that you'll notice is a fairly subtle front door. And in fact, it's a gate that goes into an interior courtyard. I'm going to let Jenny Lance from John Burns Real Estate Consulting and their Design Lens group explain that a little bit better.
Not everybody wants that big front porch. In fact, kind of depending on urban versus rural, rural spaces, they want that front door visible and findable from the street, but they also want it kind of tucked back, and that gets more and more important in urban areas. So since this is kind of a suburban, a little bit between the two, taking that setback with the gate and then the courtyard and then the front door was not only providing privacy and a little bit of outdoor living space at the front of the home, but also giving that layered entry for things like packages and people visiting. It gave a little bit more safety and security for that entrance and separation from the public realm.
Okay, back to the front. And before we move on into the courtyard, I just wanted to kind of explain the other icons on the screen. The red icons with the eye there is for information, and that's product information for our sponsors. And so I'm going to click on this one, just take a look at the window that pops up, and you can read information, you can get information from there. So that's just what those are. So let's walk into the courtyard.
into the interior courtyard, we locate, we have could be a water feature. We're showing a pool, and we find that pools have become more popular than ever before because people are less likely today to go to a public pool facility, and people are taking their homes and upgrading them. We're not talking about a big pool. Some people refer to them as a spool, but it's a small little water feature that we think really becomes sort of the focal point of that courtyard. And so that is kind of the entry experience as we come through that gated courtyard entry, and then the guest house to the right.
I also wanted to say there's two entries to this home. One is the public entry, which is what we just went through. The other is more the private entry, the family entry. And we've done some things there to kind of reflect a COVID lifestyle, if you will. And so I'm going to let Michaela Arroyo from John Burns talk about the research that she found with regards to that particular space.
This comes more from our conversations about what do you need when you walk into your home. You need that moment to decompress, to set your stuff down, to adjust your mentality into I'm going home now. And that's something that this room can help with. It can solve that pain point.
Okay, so we're going to move on from the clean room and directly into the kitchen. And Michael Woodley is going to tell you a little bit about his design intent for that and how it relates to the outdoor spaces that we've created.
Really what we're seeing now are these open-ended kitchens. And what I mean by that is we tend to put the cabinetry along one wall, a very sizable island, and then we open up to the rear yard. And the grilling area almost becomes an extension of that kitchen. You can see it almost mirrors sort of the function of the kitchen, just extending it outside. So rather than wrapping cabinetry around and having a much smaller island, today we really open up the kitchen to the whole house as well as to the rear yard. So we want glass to wrap around.
Okay, here we are outdoors. There's a lot to talk about here. So I'm going to let Michael explain a little bit about what his intent was here, and then Jenny Lance will follow.
When we are thinking about outdoor spaces, we almost think of them as rooms that are outside. And so we've really created we have a grill, which may be like the kitchen, like the cooking area. Then we created a dining area outside, which is covered, and then a sitting area. So think of them as rooms. So we've created the spaces that are outdoors that are much like rooms in a house.
So I think the show home really offers kind of the best of both worlds. It gives you that courtyard, so an alternative outdoor space that brings in light to a lot more of the home. Then you also have your backyard, which gives you that open space for gathering and cooking and gardening and getting outdoors and giving people what they're looking for while also still connecting it to the inside.
You may have remembered that Michael Woodley mentioned a guest house. That guest house, if you recall from the aerial view of the house, is just to the right of that gate that goes into the interior courtyard. And you can also obviously access it from the main house through the courtyard. So we're going to go in there, and I'm going to let Michael tell you a little bit about that space.
As soon as we pass through the gate, just to our right is a little guest house, or a casita is what we, in the West, you'd refer to that. But it's a guest house and it has lots of function. And that's what we like about it, depending on what your needs are.
The next space we're going to move into is the home office, one of two actually in this roughly 2,500 square foot floor plan. This one is upstairs, adjacent to the owner's suite or primary suite. And it reflects very cleanly kind of the new way of thinking about home offices and workspaces.
The home office location, it tends to be placed at the front of the home right off the entry. And that's pretty far down in the list of where consumers would prefer it. Number one is upstairs, but not attached to the main bedroom. Second is downstairs off of the backyard or patio. So some of the access to the backyard. There's a whole list of places where people would prefer to have it before the front of the entry where it usually is.
Now, if we swing around from the office just across the hall and over the staircase, we come to a similarly scaled fitness area. And I'm going to let Ken Perlman from John Burns Real Estate Consulting talk a little bit about that space and what they found in their research.
Instead of including, say, a standard size loft, the spaces that we're looking at for fitness is a little bit smaller. Again, rethinking kind of the standard square footage of rooms. And so we don't need to necessarily have a huge exercise room with the popularity of equipment like Peloton and Mirror. We don't need as much room within the house. So the relatively narrow space we think can accommodate both a Mirror or a Peloton, or can be used for a yoga studio if you want, and provide the type of light and privacy for people to work out in a location that makes them feel good and comfortable, but isn't oversized.
So the last space we're going to visit is, again, a direct reflection of COVID, and that is creating spaces for kids to learn and to go to school remotely.
We realized that this idea of creating one remote learning area for 2 kids is not working as well. And what we wanted to do is kind of go back to more just a simple kind of college dorm idea, where we create an alcove where somebody can set up that computer, have their calls, have a dedicated space to work, but be private and not be out in the open. They're clearly not as productive when there's other kids running around, lots of distractions. So we wanted to create these study coves which sort of within each bedroom.
Okay, well, that's it for the new home. Obviously, there's a lot more to see, a lot more rooms to travel through that we didn't get to in this presentation, but I wanted to give you the highlights. And I encourage you to visit not just the new home, but all 3 homes in Show Village. And again, the URL is pvshowvillage.com. If you have to register, it's a very easy process. We hope you do so. And we hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thanks for your time and have a great rest of your week.